Hi everyone, I'm Megan, and this is Beguiled by Books, where I share short book reviews across a wide variety of genres. Today I'm sharing my December 2024 reading wrap up, and my annual reading wrap up will be out in a different video. Let's get started. The theme of the last couple of months has just been chaos in my life. Not bad chaos, but just constant being on the go, and December was no different. We hosted a holiday party for about 20 people, and while we had a great time, I didn't get to read as much as I wanted, but I did manage to read 7 books in December, and I'm excited to share those with you. At my local bookstore, one of the owners recommended very casually a book called Interesting Facts About Space. And I had no idea what the book was about, and I ended up loving this book. This is definitely an underrated book. I want more people to read this, so please add this to your TBR. It is delightful. Our main character is on the spectrum, neurodivergent, and, seemingly successful, very sex positive. She's out there living her life, doing her thing, but definitely starts to get a little paranoid when she sees some suspicious activity in her apartment building. And it kind of goes from love story to spy thriller to self-discovery in just the most wonderfully chaotic way. I absolutely loved this book. This is definitely going to be a top book for the year. Please go put this on your TBR. You will thank me. A book recommended to me by another owner of my local bookstore is called What We See When We Read. And the premise is really how descriptive are authors in actuality. Each reader has their own perception of the way a house is described, the way a character is described, the way a landscape is described. Is the author actually giving us all that detail, or are we interpreting based on our own experiences and filling in those gaps? It's a really cool book. I would highly recommend the physical version of this book because there's a lot of art and pictures and really interesting dynamics with redacted pages and things like that to help illustrate the author's point. So grab a physical copy and check this one out. It's a short read. I read it in a day because there's so much going on the pages. Really, really cool and interesting book. I casually picked up a book called 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart at the bookstore. And again, it had been sitting in my cabinet for months. And I just grabbed it and decided to read it very randomly in December. And this was a really cool book of short stories. I thought it was a novel, but it's a bunch of different short stories, and I love an anthology of short stories. This one was really, really cool. A lot of weird creatures and very wonderful, imaginative stories, an eternal staircase, and creepy beasts, and interesting, nebulous people that shapeshift into animals. Bunch of really cool stories. I would say if you're a fan of the Neil Gaiman Fragile Things short story anthology, you would love this book, 50 Beasts to Break Your Heart. I got a book called Salt, Sugar, Fat from my local library. And y'all know I love a good book about health and wellness and understanding how food impacts our bodies and our brains. And this book is a little bit older. I think it's maybe 10-ish years old, 2011, 2013, somewhere in there. And a lot has changed in our knowledge and our understanding in the last 10 years or so. But this book is less about the actual foods and the components of the foods and more about the corporations that have really altered how our food chain has, or our food supply chain has worked and how we interact with that at our local grocery stores, and how those few companies really control so much of our lives and the food available to put into our bodies. Really interesting reads. A lot of it is still relevant. But if you're interested in the components of the actual nutrition and how our bodies and brains interact with the food we eat, that's not this book, but it is more about the corporations. Really cool either way. Months and months and months ago, I got an ARC of treating adult children of emotionally immature parents. So I was super excited to read this. I never got around to reading this in a timely manner, and that is on me. But I finally did get this ARC read in December. What I didn't know going into it is that it is a clinician's guide. So, this book Dr. Gibson wrote for other therapists and other practitioners to treat this particular group of clients. So, it is from the lens of therapist to therapist. It was a little bit beyond me. I am not a therapist, I am not a psychologist. If you're not a therapist, you don't need to read this book. All of the other meat and potatoes is in the original books. But this is really cool. I can imagine if you are a therapist, a clinician, a practitioner to help people in this psychological space. An ARC I was woefully behind reading was Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales. I picked this book up so many times throughout the year since I received it, and I couldn't make myself sit down and read it. I wasn't in the headspace, but December felt right. December felt like the right time to read Emily Wilde. And I'm so glad I did because the book actually takes place in Emily Wilde's world over December and January of her life, which was so fun. Just the little bit of parallel there. Obviously, it's a different world. I'm not in the fairy world, sadly, exploring these things. But Compendium of Lost Tales, the third book in the Emily Wilde series, is delightful. It's just as much fun as the first two. It's a wonderful exploration into Wendell's world, where he comes from, and you will just absolutely love this book if you've already read the Emily Wilde series. And if you haven't, I would absolutely start with the first one and enjoy that one. I wrapped up December with Can't Spell Treason Without T by Rebecca Thorne. And it's a little bit of a slow start, but it's a really cozy fantasy novel. Y'all know I love a good cozy fantasy novel, so expect me to talk about this again. But this was such a delightful book. I just discovered that book two is out as well, so I'm hopefully going to read that really soon. My TBR for 2025 is getting stacked really fast. But this was a fun, delightful, again, cozy little fantasy. We've got two main characters. They're partners. These two women run away together. They are in love. They're so sweet and they're so happy. And they kind of open up a tea shop. And of course, misadventure follows them. And it's just delightful. You will love this book if you're looking for something cozy and sweet, especially to hunker down in front of that wintertime fireplace and escape the world for a little while. What books did you read in December? And what books should I go ahead and add to my ever-growing list of books to read in 2025? Drop a comment below. I definitely want to hear your thoughts and opinions. And as always, if you found a book that you're interested in reading or you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out the pinned comment as well, and that way you can get a link to sign up for my upcoming course coming out in 2025. And don't forget to check out my reading guide so that you can lead your book club discussions with great questions and great insight. I hope you have a wonderful day.